here in the greenhouse behind the pie shop in Armada, and Francis and Jake have been working really hard all summer and all through the year to create this beautiful garden and all of these vegetables growing in the hoop house as well. It's about 65 degrees outside, but inside here it feels like it's about 85. So they've got these beautiful hanging tomatoes, and they have tobacco planted right next to them. It's got lots of Swiss chard. We've got lots of watermelons in here. So they're probably going to let these watermelons just ripen on the vine for maybe a few more weeks. I am really excited about this. This is our compost. This was a cooperation between Achatz Pies and the village of Armada. When we first started this garden many years ago, my husband Dave and I and the kids would go out behind the DPW where they would dump all the wood chips from the village and all of the leaves, and we would shovel leaves and wood chips into the back of the pickup truck and then bring them out here to our garden. And then one day I was talking to Dave Wagner, the DPW guy, and I said, why don't you guys just dump all of the leaves and wood chips here so that we don't have to shovel anymore? He said, yeah, that'd be great. You want all of our leaves and all of our wood chips? I'm like, heck yeah, we want to build topsoil and we want to create compost and we want to retain water and sequester carbon, and that's the whole thing, right? So bringing more soil nutrients into our soil out here. You know, Dave Wagner had said, you know, they pay huge, trucking company to come and take away all of the wood chips and leaves every year. So it was really costing the village of Armada taxpayers a lot of money to have those leaves and all of that debris hauled away. So I'm thankful to have it, and I believe the taxpayers in the village are really thankful not to have to pay for that service anymore. So here we've got pine trees, oak trees, raspberry bushes here, and these are chestnut trees. I'm really excited about all of these trees. So we're offering these to the community. We also have some grapevines that the farmer next door gave us. We took some snips and clips, and so we've got those rooting. So it's really been wonderful what Jake and Francis have been able to achieve in just 1 year. So we bought this 10-acre apple orchard from Larry and Marianne Mahaffey back in 1995, I believe. And the only reason we bought it was because I was buying most of the apples from this orchard anyway. We used all of his Northern Spies and some Ida Reds and Paula Reds and some Jonathans that we were blending in to make our pies. And one day I came in the middle of the summer, and I remember Zach was probably in preschool, but Zach and I popped in around July to check on how the orchard was going because we were in the middle of a terrible drought. And Larry was here with his brother, and they were moving tables around and getting ready for the season up here in this little red pole barn. I said, Mr. Mahaffey, we're in the middle of this drought. I'm worried about the apples. How is the crop looking? And I remember he just took off his little John Deere hat and he wiped his brow because it was so hot and he was all sweaty. And he said, Wendy, why don't you just buy the darn orchard? I'm like, okay, maybe we will. And so Zach and I and Mr. Mahaffey went walking down this pathway. Here we call it the apple path. And we walked through the whole 10 acres, and he pointed out all of the different trees. I think he had about 35 or 40 different varieties. One of this, two of that, maybe a half a dozen of something else, and maybe 30 or 40 of another flavor or variety. And I just thought it was so amazing with all of these different beautiful apple trees and apple varieties. Remember, he had one pippin tree here. Some people call it a 24-ounce pippin. They grow really big. And he had a strawberry apple tree. He had a July apple tree. So lots of Macintosh. Anyway, it was just wonderful, and I just fell in love. There's a little swale down there and a little pond, and then the woods back here. It was just a beautiful orchard. But as some of you know, orchards are really hard to maintain. So we ended up buying the orchard because of the little teeny pole barn, and we moved from our house into the pole barn and set up our pie shop there. But it didn't have water, it didn't have electricity, so we had to dig a well, put in a big septic field, bring in power, clean up the little pole barn and make it to where it was a real bakery, inspected by the Macomb County Health Department, of course. So that was a lot of work. And then we built that other bigger pole barn in the back And we even extended some of the baking back there, put some more ovens in, and we just grew and grew and grew. So we grew until we couldn't grow anymore here. And as the years went on, we just got busier and we started picking up wholesale accounts. Whole Foods, this was Merchants of Vino before it was Whole Foods. As a lot of you guys remember here, if you're in Metro Detroit, you remember Merchants of Vino with Eddie and Juliet Jonah. And so they were the first people that really, that we did wholesale business with. And so after that, they were bought out by Whole Foods. A few years later, we started going into Chicago and dropping fresh pies off 3 days a week to all the Whole Foods stores there in Chicago. And in the meantime, we picked up, you know, Papa Joe's and Vincent Joe's and the little Long Lake Market, some of the Kroger stores. And so as we started to expand our business, we didn't really have time to maintain the orchard. And it was really sad to kind of let it go. But, you know, we just really needed to focus on baking pies instead of growing apples. And so we let the orchardists do the apple growing for us, and we work with them now. Mostly on the west side of the state is where we get most of our apples from. But it was so nice to walk out here and just pick an apple off the tree and fresh, you know. We'd come out here with Zach and Ariel when they were little, and we'd have picnics and a little campfire, and it was just really nice. We would love to find somebody who wanted to come in and take over the orchard. I would insist on it being done organically. This little garden here that we've just walked through is 100% organic. You do not use any herbicides or pesticides or any kind of chemicals, no chemical fertilizers. Everything is done naturally. So of course we would want the apple orchard as well to be kept organic.